There was a specific day when your mother stole your identity. You don't remember it. It happened before you had words to describe it, before you were conscious enough to realize what was happening. But that day existed, and everything you've become since then is a consequence of it. Carl Jung discovered something disturbing about narcissistic mothers that most people will never hear. They don't raise children. They create extensions of themselves. And to create an extension, they first need to destroy the original. This is what we call psychological identity theft. It's not a crime. It leaves no visible marks. You can't report it to the police station, but it's as devastating as any robbery. Because what was taken wasn't money, wasn't property, it was you. The true you, who never had a chance to exist. If you're watching this video and feel like you don't know who you are, that you spend your life trying to figure out what you want, what you like, what you believe, that you look in the mirror and see a stranger, this video will explain why. It will explain the exact mechanism by which your mother, probably without even realizing what she was doing, replaced your authentic self with a version that served her purposes. It will explain why you feel empty, why your decisions always seem wrong, why you attract relationships where you continue to be erased, and more importantly, it will show you that the authentic self hasn't died. It's just been hidden, and it can be rescued. Psychic fusion is a concept that Jung used to describe the natural psychic merging between mother and baby in the early years of life. Until approximately the age of 7, the child has no clear separation between self and other. They absorb everything from the mother as if it were their own. Emotions, beliefs, fears, desires. This is normal. This is necessary for development. The problem happens when the mother doesn't allow this fusion to end, when instead of gradually letting the child separate and become an individual, the mother maintains the fusion, keeps the child as part of herself, uses the child to complete her own voids, fulfill her own unlived dreams, heal her own wounds. The narcissistic mother doesn't see the child as a separate person. She sees them as an extension, like an extra arm of her own body. And just as you wouldn't ask your arm what it wants to do today, the narcissistic mother doesn't ask the child. She decides who the child is, decides what the child likes, decides what the child feels. And the child, who is still in the fusion phase, absorbs these decisions as if they were truths about themselves. You like piano. You want to be a doctor. You're shy. You're too sensitive. You need me. The child doesn't question. Children don't question mothers. Small children don't even have the cognitive capacity to question. They simply accept. And so, the identity is built not from the inside out, but from the outside in. Not from the authentic self, but from maternal projections. And here's where the theft happens. Because in order for the child to accept the identity projected by the mother, they need to abandon their own identity. They need to ignore their own impulses, their own preferences, their own feelings. They need to learn not to trust themselves, need to learn that what they feel isn't what they really feel, that what they want isn't what they really want, that who they are isn't who they really are. Mother knows best. Mother always knows. And so the authentic self is pushed into the shadows, replaced by a false self, a construction, a performance, a mask that the child wears for so long that they forget it's a mask. Jung called this identification with the persona. The persona is the social mask that we all wear to navigate the world. We all have personas. The problem happens when the person becomes confused with the persona, when they no longer know who they are under the mask, when the mask sticks to the face so completely that removing it seems impossible. And that's exactly what happens to children of narcissistic mothers. The mask that the mother projected onto them becomes so integrated that they believe it is them. They believe that those preferences are theirs, that those dreams are theirs, that that personality is theirs. They don't realize they're living someone else's life, the life the mother wanted to live and the life the mother couldn't live. Let me tell you about a woman named Ashley. It's not her real name, but her story is real. Ashley was 38 years old when she came to therapy. Her initial complaint was vague. She said she felt lost, that she didn't know who she was anymore, that she had built a life that seemed perfect on the outside, stable marriage, 2 children, successful career as a lawyer, but that on the inside she felt an emptiness she couldn't explain. She said she woke up every day with a feeling of living someone else's life, of acting in a role she didn't choose, of being an imposter in her own existence. The therapist asked about her childhood. Ashley began to tell the story she always told. Wonderful childhood. Dedicated mother, yes, united family. No trauma. But the therapist noticed something strange. The way Ashley described her mother was excessively positive. Too perfect. Without any flaws. Without any shadows. And when the therapist asked about conflict, about difficult moments, about times when Ashley disagreed with her mother, she fell silent. She couldn't remember any. 38 years of life and no memory of having disagreed with her mother. No memory of having said no. No memory of having been herself in opposition to what her mother wanted. The therapist began to investigate. Asked Ashley to talk about her life choices. Why did she become a lawyer? Ashley replied that she always wanted to be a lawyer. The therapist asked more. When did you realize you wanted to be a lawyer? Ashley thought. The first memory that came to mind was of her mother saying that she would be a great lawyer, that she had a talent for arguing, that the profession was perfect for her. Ashley was 8 years old in that memory, and since then, she never questioned it, simply followed the path that her mother had drawn. The therapist continued, "And your husband? How did you meet?" Ashley said that her mother had introduced them, that her mother always said that he was perfect for her, that he was the type of man she needed. Ashley had agreed. They dated, got engaged, got married, all according to the script that her mother had approved. "And the children?" the therapist asked. "How many did you want to have?" Ashley paused, was silent for a long time, finally said, "My mother always wanted 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl." And that's exactly what Ashley had. The question the therapist asked next changed everything. "And you, Ashley? How many children did you want to have?" Ashley began to cry. For the first time in 38 years, Ashley realized she had never asked herself that question, never wondered what she wanted. In anything. In absolutely nothing. Ashley's mother was a woman who had sacrificed her career to raise her children. She had dreamed of being a lawyer. She had been accepted into law school. But she became pregnant with Ashley and had to give it all up. She spent her entire life with that unfulfilled dream locked inside. And when Ashley was born, she saw in her a second chance, an opportunity to live through her daughter what she couldn't achieve herself. Ashley was not Ashley. She was an extension of her mother. She was the vehicle through which her mother would finally realize her interrupted dream. Carl Jung called this phenomenon projection. Parents project their own unlived parts onto their children, their unrealized dreams, their unintegrated shadows. This happens to some degree in all families. All parents project something onto their children. The problem arises when the projection is total, when the child ceases to exist as an individual and becomes just a screen for parental projections. When the child is completely swallowed by the shadow of the parents. In Ashley's case, the projection was so complete that she never had a chance to discover who she was on her own. From before she was even aware, she was already being molded to be the improved version of her mother. And Ashley, in the innocence of childhood, accepted it. She thought that was her destiny. She thought those were her desires. She had no way of knowing that she was living someone else's life. She had nothing to compare it to. Hold on, because the most important part is coming now. Ashley's case is not an exception. It's a pattern. It's what happens when narcissistic mothers raise daughters. It's what happens when parents don't resolve their own complexes before having children. And this leads us to the 5 specific mechanisms by which narcissistic mothers steal their children's identity. Psychological identity theft. The first mechanism is psychological invasion. The narcissistic mother doesn't respect boundaries. She doesn't recognize that the child is a separate being with the right to privacy, to their own thoughts, to their own emotions. She invades everything, wants to know everything, gives her opinion on everything, decides about everything. The child has no space to develop a sense of self, because the mother's self occupies all the available space. It's like trying to plant a sapling next to a giant tree that blocks all the sun. The sapling never has a chance to grow. No matter how much water you give it, no matter how much care you take, without sun, without space, the sapling withers. That's exactly what happens to the identity of a child raised by a narcissistic mother. The identity withers because it never has space to grow. The second mechanism is systematic projection. The mother projects onto the child everything she herself wanted to be, everything she herself couldn't achieve, everything she herself hates about herself. The child becomes the recipient of everything the mother doesn't want to carry. If the mother wanted to be an artist but couldn't, the child will be forced to be an artist. If the mother hates her own sensitivity, the child will be taught to hate sensitivity too. If the mother is afraid of being alone, the child will be conditioned to never abandon the mother. The projection is constant and all-encompassing. And the cruelest thing is that the child doesn't realize they are receiving projections. They think those feelings are theirs. They think those desires were born inside them. There's no way to know the difference, because they've never had the chance to discover what is genuinely theirs. The third mechanism is the invalidation of otherness. Every time the child shows something that is genuinely their own, that didn't come from the mother invalidates it. It can be subtle. A disapproving look, a passive-aggressive comment, a silence loaded with judgment. It can be direct, open criticism, an explicit prohibition, ridicule in front of others. The message is always the same: who you are is not acceptable. Who I want you to be is acceptable. Over time, the child learns to hide everything that is genuinely theirs, learns to show only what the mother wants to see. The authentic self goes into the shadow. What remains is performance. A performance so convincing that the child themselves forgets that they are acting. The fourth mechanism is the reward of conformity. The narcissistic mother doesn't give unconditional love. She gives love conditional to conformity. When the child acts according to the maternal script, they receive affection, approval, attention, warmth. When the child deviates from the script, they lose all of that. They are treated with coldness, distance, contempt. The child's brain learns quickly. It learns that to be loved, it needs to stop being itself. It needs to be what the mother wants. And so, the child abandons pieces of themselves in exchange for love. They sell their soul in installments, until there's nothing left, until the authentic self is so buried that the child themselves forgets it exists. The fifth mechanism is perhaps the most subtle and most devastating. It's the colonization of the internal discourse. The narcissistic mother not only tells the child who she is, she installs a version of herself inside the child's mind. A critical voice that continues talking even when the mother isn't present, even when the mother dies, even decades later. This voice says things like, "You're not good enough. You need to do better. You should be ashamed. What will others think? You disappointed me. After everything I did for you." The child grows up and becomes an adult, but the voice is still there, deciding, judging, controlling, criticizing. The identity theft is complete when the victim becomes their own jailer, when they no longer need the mother to be controlled, because they have internalized the mother completely. The mother now lives inside the mind, and the person doesn't even realize that the critical voice isn't theirs. They think it's conscience. They think it's common sense. They think it's them speaking. They don't know it's the mother, speaking through them, controlling from within. Ashley recognized all 5 mechanisms in her own story. The psychological invasion. Her mother always knew everything about her life, read her diary, opened her letters, listened to her phone conversations. The systematic projection. The career as a lawyer that was never her choice. The invalidation of otherness. All the times she wanted something different from what her mother wanted and was ignored, ridiculed, or punished with coldness. The reward of conformity, the love that only came when she acted as expected, and the colonization of the internal discourse, the voice of her mother that even today, at 38 years old, continues inside her head, judging every decision, criticizing every movement. The therapist explained to Ashley that what she was experiencing had a name in Jungian psychology. It was called a failure of individuation. Individuation is the process by which a person becomes who they really are, separated from their parents, differentiated from their family of origin, according to Jung, integrated with her own authentic self. This is a process that should naturally unfold throughout adolescence and early adulthood. But for children of narcissistic mothers, this process is blocked, because individuation requires separation. And separation is exactly what the narcissistic mother cannot tolerate. Ashley's mother had a panic of being abandoned. She had been abandoned by her own father at the age of 6. They never processed that wound. And when Ashley was born, she saw in her the chance to finally have someone who would never abandon her. But to guarantee that, she needed to keep Ashley trapped. She needed to prevent Ashley from becoming a separate person, with her own will, and so without realizing it, without conscious malice. Ashley's mother stole her daughter's individuation. She stole Ashley's chance to become Ashley. The paradox is cruel. The mother who is most afraid of being abandoned creates the child who will later need to abandon her to survive psychologically. The mother who most wants to keep her child close creates the child who will carry deep resentment for having been swallowed whole. The mother who most projects love is actually projecting need, and the child feels it. She feels that that love is not about her. It's about the mother. She feels like she's being used. Remember when I said that the authentic self hasn't died, that it was just hidden? This is crucial. Jung believed that the self is indestructible. It can be repressed. It can be buried. It can be ignored for decades, but it can never be completely destroyed. Ashley's authentic self still existed. It was there, waiting to be found. The proof of this was exactly the emptiness she felt. The emptiness wasn't absence. It was the presence of something that was missing. It was the authentic self screaming to be rescued. According to Jung, Ashley's therapy was long and painful. There's no shortcut to rescuing a stolen identity. The first step was recognizing that the wonderful mother of the official narrative was actually a mother who had stolen her identity. This didn't mean that the mother was a bad person. It meant that the mother's love had been distorted by her own unhealed wounds. The second step was to identify the projections, one by one. Ashley needed to question every preference, every choice, every belief. Is this really mine? Or is it my mother's? Do I really want this? Or was I conditioned to want it? Do I really like this? Or did I learn to like it to please her? This process was exhausting and disorienting. Ashley spent months not knowing who she was, not knowing what she wanted, floating in a void of identity. But this emptiness was necessary. It was the space that needed to be cleared before the authentic self could emerge. The third step was to experiment. Ashley started doing small things she had never done. Things that her mother would disapprove of, things that weren't part of the maternal script. She cut her hair in a way that her mother would hate. She started reading books that her mother would find a waste of time. She experimented with hobbies she had never considered. Each small transgression was an act of reclaiming identity. Each choice of her own, however small, was a brick in the construction of a self that had never been allowed to exist. The fourth step was the most painful. It was confronting the mother, not in the sense of arguing or accusing, but in the sense of setting boundaries, of saying no, of disagreeing, of existing as a separate person in the presence of the mother. The mother didn't react well. Narcissistic mothers never react well when the narcissistic supply begins to separate. There was emotional blackmail. There were accusations of ingratitude. There were veiled threats of withdrawing love. There was the classic phrase that all narcissistic mothers use, "After everything I've done for you." Ashley needed to learn to tolerate the guilt. She needed to learn that the guilt she felt wasn't hers. It was the narcissistic guilt that the mother had installed in her to keep her trapped. It was the tool of control that the mother used unconsciously. Tolerating that guilt without giving in was the most difficult and most liberating act of Ashley's life. You've just discovered how narcissistic mothers steal their children's identities. Most people will never hear this. Each video like this costs hours of deep research. In Jung, in developmental psychology, in relational trauma. Information like this has been ignored for decades because it confronts something sacred, the figure of the mother. No one wants to hear that mothers can destroy children. That maternal love can be toxic. The super thanks down there isn't just financial support. It's you saying, "This truth needs to be known." When you click on that golden heart, you help other daughters and sons understand what happened to them. You're not just a spectator. You're someone who cares about those who are still trapped. The fifth step in Ashley's recovery was grief, because rescuing the stolen identity also means grieving for the life that wasn't lived. It means crying for the child who never had a chance to be herself. It means feeling anger for what was taken. It means accepting that those years don't come back. Grief is necessary because without it there is no closure. Grief liberates. The sixth step was reparenting. Carl Jung and his followers talked about the need to become our own parents, to give ourselves what our parents couldn't give. In Ashley's case, this meant learning to validate herself, learning to ask herself what she wanted before asking anyone else, learning to trust her own perceptions, learning to treat herself with kindness when she made mistakes. Today, Ashley is 45 years old, 7 years after starting therapy. She would say that she's still in the process, that there are still days when the mother's voice appears inside her head. But she would also say that for the first time in her life she knows who she is, that she discovered things about herself that she never knew, that she likes to cook, something that her mother despised, that she loves classical music, something she had never allowed herself to explore, that she would have preferred to have been a teacher instead of a lawyer. These discoveries came with pain, with the grief for the life not lived, but they also came with relief, with the feeling of finally being home, of finally being Ashley. Ashley's story isn't uncommon. It's the story of thousands of people who were raised by narcissistic mothers, people who spent their entire lives not knowing who they were, people who built careers and marriages, entire families based on maternal projections, people who only discovered the theft when the emptiness became unbearable. If you're one of those people, I want you to know some important things. First, you're not crazy. The feeling of not knowing who you are isn't fussiness. It's not a lack of something to do. It's not ingratitude. It's a real consequence of a real process of identity theft that happened in your childhood. What you feel has a name. It has a cause. It has an explanation. And it's not your fault. According to Carl Jung, recognizing this is the first step toward healing. Secondly, your narcissistic mother probably didn't know what she was doing. This doesn't absolve her, but it helps you understand. She was repeating what was done to her. She was trying to heal her own wounds or through you. She was doing the best she could with the tools she had. Unfortunately, her best was devastating for you. Thirdly, your authentic self hasn't died. It's there, waiting. The emptiness you feel isn't an absence of self. It's the self, trying to be heard, trying to emerge, trying to come home. You can help it come back. Through therapy, through self-awareness, through small, daily acts of authenticity, through the courage to discover who you really are, even if that means disappointing your mother. Fourthly, individuation is still possible. No matter your age, no matter how long you've lived your mother's life, it's never too late to become who you really are. The process is painful. It's long. It's filled with setbacks. But it's possible. And it's worth it. because the alternative is to spend the rest of your life in emptiness and to die without ever having lived as yourself. And for the mothers who are watching, for those who recognize something of themselves and in this description, it's not too late to change. It's not too late to start seeing your child as a separate person. It's not too late to stop projecting. It's not too late to let your child be who they are, even if that's different from what you wanted. The greatest gift a mother can give is the permission for her child to exist, the permission to be different, the permission to disagree, the permission to leave. Paradoxically, that permission is what makes the child want to stay, because we only truly stay close to those who allow us to be free. Carl Jung once said that the greatest burden a child can carry is the unlived life of the parents. That phrase sums up everything we've talked about today. The narcissistic mother transfers to the child the weight of everything that she herself couldn't be, and the child accepts to carries it, until they can't anymore, until the soul screams with emptiness, until there's no choice left but to confront the truth that the truth is painful, but the truth sets you free. And the truth is that many mothers, because of their own unhealed wounds, commit psychological identity theft on their children, not out of malice, not by conscious choice, but out of pain, out of desperation, out of a lack of awareness. Understanding this isn't excusing it, it's contextualizing it. It's moving from the position of victim and into the position of an adult who can make their own choices, who can interrupt the cycle, who can decide not to pass on the same burden they received. The generational cycle of psychological identity theft only breaks with consciousness. Ashley's mother stole Ashley's identity because Ashley's grandmother had stolen the identity of Ashley's mother, and so on. For generations, no one knew what they were doing. No one had words to name it. No one had the awareness to interrupt it. Until someone wakes up, until someone feels the emptiness too strong to ignore, until someone finds a video like this, or a book, or a therapist that finally gives a name to what they've always felt, but never knew how to explain. You can be that person. You can be the one who interrupts the cycle in your family. You don't need to confront your mother. You don't need to fight. You don't need to accuse. You just need to become conscious. You just need to start the long process of discovering who you really are. You just need to give to your children, if you have them or will have them, the permission that you never received, the permission to be themselves. The next generation of children without identity is being created at this very moment in houses where mothers see children as extensions of themselves, in families where individuation is treated as betrayal, in homes where the question, "What do you want?" is never truly asked. You can help interrupt this by sharing this video, by talking about this topic, by breaking the silence that protects the generational psychological identity theft. Each person who wakes up helps other people to wake up, and so, little by little, the cycle weakens and children begin to have a chance to be themselves. If this video stirred something within you, if you recognized your own story or the story of your mother, leave a comment. Tell me, at what point did you realize that you didn't know who you were, or haven't you realized it yet? And this video was the first step. I want to read every story. I want to know that this video reached the people who needed to hear it.